Greetings. Welcome to week 10 of our course on literature and medicine. This announcement, I just want to briefly introduce you to your final writing assignment, really, for the semester before the final exam, which is a film review. So I hope this is kind of a little break for you guys after all the stress in this semester. Let me just show you where this is. If you go into our course and go up to essay assignments, you can scroll all the way down past research essay to where it says film review. And this is basically the assignment. If you want to see the assignment sheet, you can open this tab, but it's all explained right here as well. So for this assignment, generate a concise review of a film. Your review should include a concise but detailed summary and analysis of a scene from the film as a way of evaluating the different elements of filmmaking, such as writing, directing, and acting. What is this film's message? How does it get that message across to its viewer? How do the rhetorical strategies we've been discussing this semester, such as ethos, pathos, and logos, translate into film? For example, how might the music from a scene generate pathos? So we're still working on making claims here. This should still be an argumentative paper, but we're just focusing on a different kind of text. So the goals for this unit include making sure you're summarizing the plot of the film. My tip for summarizing a film, which I want you to practice this week, is introducing all of the main characters from the film and trying to mention who the actors and actresses are who play them. I posted a link this week to imdb.com, which is a great resource if you type any film title into that database, it will tell you who played which actor, and it'll also give you credits, the other credits for the film, like who wrote it, who directed it, who were the producers. You should be making a clear recommendation. Your thesis for a film review is basically whether or not you think the audience should bother seeing this movie. And you should try to do that early on, like let your reader know how you felt about it. And again, just because you watch the movie doesn't mean you have to like the movie. You should also practice offering some detailed analysis of the filmmaking, concentrating on a specific scene. Your topic sentence should identify the aspects of the filmmaking that you are evaluating. For example, you might say about The Martian, Matt Damon's performance in The Martian is particularly compelling in the scene where. Like, try to point your reader's attention to a particular scene. An analysis of the film's key elements, such as directing, acting, writing, sound, blah, blah, blah. Style appropriate for audience, and also MLA style. I'll try to remind you guys for next week about how to cite a film in MLA style. This should be a 2 to 3 page paper, and the deadline here, it says April 20th here, but let me just make sure that's right. Yeah, so I updated this, so it's now due on the 22nd of April. So let's see. The other thing I wanted to just go over this week, again, for this week, all I want you to do is practice summarizing a film. Your one discussion post for this week is to just choose a film that you've seen recently in the past and try to summarize it in 5 to 10 sentences, and then post that, and then respond to 2 of your classmates' posts. Like, is the summary kind of addressing the whole arc of the plot? Is it introducing all the main characters? If you've seen the film that your classmate is writing about, it's a good way to make sure you can kind of check to make sure that they're hitting all the key plot points. But the other thing I want you to do is take a look at this review from Dallas Buyers Club, which is a movie I chose here particularly because it does seem related to the field of medicine. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but it's very much about kind of drug companies and the AIDS epidemic in the 80s. So it seems related to the course. And by the way, I didn't specify this, but and I'll address this more next week. But in choosing a film, I'm leaving it up to you what film you want to actually write about this week. But I would like you to try to select a film that deals with something related to medicine, and I will try to offer some proposals for films that you might want to check out, and I'll try to identify what databases or streaming services they're available through, um, so that you have some options. Because I'd like everybody to kind of watch their own film for this. But going through this really quickly, I just want to point out a few things that I think this reviewer does well, and that I think you can try to emulate in your review. So first of all, giving a summary, right? That's kind of what is going on in the first 2 or 3 paragraphs of this. Giving a summary of the film, right? Ron, this character played by Matthew McConaughey, is told in 1986 that he has AIDS and he has 30 days to live, but defies the odds, giving the finger to the complacent doctors and the AZT merchants of Big Pharma, and knuckles down to some research, finding alternative drug therapies in foreign countries. No mean feat in the pre-internet era. So it gives this nice kind of comprehensive summary of the film. I'd encourage you to take a look at this review in whole. But further down here, another thing I like about this review is it kind of talks about why the movie is important in kind of a political context. I want to argue here that whatever movie you decide to write about is doing something political. It's making some kind of statement. It might secretly be about a different issue. And this one, it's kind of more explicit because it is about like big pharmaceutical companies and AIDS. And this movie was made only a few years ago, but it's set in the 80s. So even though it's set in the 80s and kind of talking about the AIDS epidemic, it very much is commenting on big pharmaceutical companies in the last 10 years. But it says here, politically, Dallas Buyers Club looks pretty conservative, and veterans of the ACT UP campaign may not be delighted by the story of a straight man riding to the rescue of gays and also exerting himself to make America feel good about itself. He has a fierce capitalist ethic, and the second word in the title, buyers, is the clue. So in that sense, it's kind of talking about like what the movie is doing politically, but it's also kind of offering a bit of a critique. And I would also argue that this isn't necessarily a negative review of this film, but this is a good example, I think, of how this author is talking about what the film is doing politically, but also addressing some of the counter arguments. Right? Like it says the film is also very much in favor of abstinence. Ron refrains from sexual activity after he accepts his diagnosis, and his romantic interest with a doctor is, of course, entirely platonic. The idea of safe sex for people with HIV is not discussed, and it is unusual for a movie on this subject to avoid the subject of condoms so entirely. So again, for this reviewer, that's kind of a problem for this film. Another thing this reviewer does is makes a comparison to other movies. Like I don't know if anybody's seen Erin Brockovich, but it's kind of making this comparison where it says, like Erin Brockovich in a later era, the main character in this film is like Erin Brockovich in that film. And that's another thing you can do in your review is kind of tell your audience how this film that you're reviewing fits into the genre, and what other films it's like. And also, there's obviously an evaluation of the main performances in the film. I believe Matthew McConaughey and the supporting. I think this movie won 2 Oscars for the acting in it. Jared Leto being the supporting actor, won Best Supporting Actor. But here, it's very clear in this paragraph, like how this reviewer is analyzing the acting, right? Matthew McConaughey gives a barnstormer of a performance as Ron himself. one in which the weight loss is the least interesting aspect. So commenting on like what this actor had to go through to like be in this role, and then kind of um, continues on that line, evaluates the performance a little bit more in this paragraph. One thing this review doesn't quite do is talk about like the directing or the acting, or I'm sorry, the writing. But that is something I would encourage you to kind of think about in your review. And the reason I want to touch on these specific things is because if you look ahead to next week, if we go here to week 12, again, I would just focus on what you have to do for this week first. Your research essay is also due this week. Please keep that in mind, which is one reason you don't have a ton of work to do outside of your research essay for this week. But just looking ahead to next week in this film review, I want you to post your outline of your film review for next week, because your film review itself is going to be due the following week. But if you look here, how I set this up, this is like what I asked you to do for your research essay a couple weeks ago. But here I'm asking you to kind of focus your topic sentences on those specific things I just went over. So offer a topic sentence that addresses the counter arguments. If you're saying that your movie is a good movie, tell me why somebody else might not like it, or tell me some of the holes in the plot, or tell me some of what's kind of wrong with it, or where does it look fake, or where does it seem unbelievable, or where does it lose you. But then give me another paragraph where you're addressing the genre of the film, right? What other movies have you seen that this movie is like? What kind of comparison can you draw for your audience who hasn't seen this movie? Then offer a topic sentence about the film's political commentary. How is the movie doing something political, saying something about a political issue that people will care about? And then finally, make sure you leave some room to talk about directing, the directing and or the writing, and maybe a paragraph about like the performances in the film, notable performances. And again, you might not have quotations. You don't necessarily have to quote from the film, but I think it is up to you to describe as much of the film as you can to give your reader a sense of how you are reading this movie in this way, and where in the film you're kind of getting evidence for that argument. So yeah, just keep that in mind as you decide what film it is you want to watch this week. And again, I will try to post some recommendations and let you know. But yeah, otherwise, again, I hope everybody is doing well. I hope this is an assignment that's kind of like a nice little break for people here at the end, to wait for you to kind of watch a film and enjoy it, but also do a little writing about it. So I look forward to reading your research essays this week, and I also look forward to seeing the film summaries that you post. Please also don't forget to do the Blackboard quiz on apostrophes, which is also due on Wednesday. All right, take it easy.